why have you decided to launch your own digital proposition? What is it?
Okay, first of all, why did we go down this path? I think is an important one.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we looked at our peers in the marketplace, and it was really interesting to see that one of our peers had lost more clients to death than anything else. So,
would you mind saying who that was?
No,
I can take some guesses.
You can take some guesses, and it really sort of focused our minds on what we are trying to do. So one of the key metrics for us is average age of clients.
Okay.
And if we can keep that average age at a level where customers are still saving,
yes, not in rundown mode.
Correct. Yeah. Then you continue to grow the business.
And what is your average age?
57.
Oh.
So
about 3 years less than I thought.
So we still have an average age of customers who are savers, but the challenge for us is we've stuck firmly to our roots in the advisory business.
Yeah.
So we still wanted to continue to offer advisory portfolios, but what happens with that though is that these people tend to be the older people, the people who are more confident in the markets, etc., etc. So you got that pressure, that upward pressure on age. So we went out and had a look. What could we do? What should we be doing? And the reality for us is we didn't want to be another robo-advisor. We're not a technology company coming to the market with this wonderful solution. What we wanted to be was an existing brand with a really good offering that actually can be digitized. So we went to Shoreditch. And we spoke to some of the bright young things in Shoreditch and said, we've got this idea, can you help us deliver it? And of course they said yes.
Yeah.
And in essence, what we're trying to do is just re-engage with the savings market. Killik & Co.'s roots is all about bringing people to market, helping them to save over time and build up their wealth. And this is exactly what our proposition is all about. So our proposition is called Silo. It's an intelligent savings app. What we want to do, like others around the table, is enable people to link their bank accounts to the app, and we will start to analyse customers' behaviour in terms of the way they're spending their money. So the nice thing about collecting information from clients in that way, and let's not talk about GDPR on this at the moment, but the customer, if they link their bank account to the app, we can see how much income's coming in or how much revenue is coming into their bank account or accounts. We can see where they're spending their money. We can see, yes, there's a mortgage, yes, there's a loan, yes, there's a credit card being paid off. Yes, there's discretionary spend, and we can start to analyse that expenditure. And in that analysis of expenditure, we can start to make predictions about their spending habits based on what we know, what we think might happen, and then we just make some suggestions about saving additional sums of money. So the age range we're going for here is not millennials, because millennials don't have any money. What we're doing is we're going for professionals who have good careers, probably have a company pension, hopefully get good bonuses every year, but are actually well remunerated. And on the basis that they're well remunerated, we're hoping that they will have disposable income in their accounts every month. A lot of them just save that to cash. Well, as we all know, saving to cash is a mug's game. So actually, we will encourage them to link their bank accounts to the app. We'll encourage them to start saving a regular amount, not overcommitting themselves. So don't be all macho about it and, I've got so much testosterone, I'm going to save £1,000 a month, and after month 2, change the direct debit. Actually, what we want them to do is agree to save 250 quid a month or 500 quid a month, depending on the individual. And then what we will do is we will invest that money. And as you said, we're going to attempt to use a mix of active and passive in a discretionary portfolio, because it's easier to run and cheaper to run a discretionary portfolio. We're going to cap the charges on that to be less than 1%, including VAT. and we are then going to encourage them to save more by analysing their spending. So this is sort of on a path down the machine learning, artificial intelligence route. The reality is it's neither. It's an algorithm, but it's on that path. We want to be able to capture more and more data from these individuals and help them more and more.
And is it branded Killik & Co, or is it branded as a completely separate brand name?
It's Silo,
Yeah.
but it is part of Killik & Co. And Silo is the project name. It's also going to be the name of the app. But there's a much bigger project that Silo is.
Yeah, so that's what I was sort of asking. Are you, in another guise, I used to do a lot of work for a big bank, goes by the name of the world, that's a local bank, and they build their own silo called First Direct.
Yes.
Which was the very first fintech silo, if I remember properly, and probably still the most successful in many respects. And they built their own silo, and they kept it very far away from their core business. And in fact, if you talk to HSBC people, they sometimes slightly regret that because it was so successful. Are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to integrate it more with your core brand?
So I mentioned earlier, one of the, for a firm or firms of wealth managers, death is a real issue.
Yeah.
What better way to encourage intergenerational passing on of assets by engaging with the grandparents or parents' children, so the children of our clients or the great-grandchildren of our clients. So what we're trying to do is position Silo as another service that Killik offers and bring that service to the attention of all our customers. So this is not about saying, oh, actually, Mr. Smith, here's a great new robo-service. We're going to kill off your investment manager, but you're going to engage digitally with us, pay less.
That is the kind of solutions people talk about for the sub £100,000 mark.
Yeah, we're not even going to try and do that. What we're going to try and do is just enable our customers across the generations to find a service within Killik that works for them.
Right. Okay.
Now, everybody talks about robo-advice. We don't. We found this wonderful phrase in the US. We went abroad. US often pioneers things, especially in fintech. And we wandered across to the US and stumbled across this firm called United Capital. Now, they don't have a robo-platform or anything, but in essence, what United Capital are trying to do is ensure that people ask one question, which is, am I going to be okay? So am I going to be able to save enough over the course of my lifetime to be able to retire and not have to keep working till I drop? And what they talk about in doing this is that it's a mix of technology and people. And their founder, Joe Duran, coined this phrase, bionic advisor. And in effect, that's exactly what Killik is doing. It's bionic advice. We're going to put technology in the hands of our customers. It doesn't matter what age they are. This is not about millennials. This is about anybody who wants to engage with technology. But also, they can have an advisor if they choose. Now, you're going to pay a little bit more if you have an advisor linked to your digital service, but there will always be an advisor available to you. It makes sense. Killik's roots is in advice, is in the client relationship. So we're never going to chuck that away. You can download the app. You can use the app. If you never want to talk to anybody, that's fine. We will engage with you through the app.
Aren't you worried, though, that, let's say, I imagine actually the kind of typical customer you're aiming at probably works in the building a bit like this, and probably has got a professional job and works for a little company accounting.
Yeah, I've left some brochures up.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So aren't you worried, though, that you could be cannibalising your future revenue stream for your core product? Which is that as that 40-year-old who does really well and is looking to get to partner level or whatever it is, when they get to partner level, they'll go, you know what, I quite like the silo thing, I'll just stay with the silo thing, and I'm not going to get the full fat Killik & Co service. Isn't it, the question I'm asking you, are you effectively cannibalising your future revenue stream?
It's a difficult question to answer because the reality is I don't know how many of the smart young things here would actually come to Killik in its current format.
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee that I'm going to get that revenue anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
The reality is that what we're doing with Silo is it's not a dumbed down version of Killik by any stretch of the imagination. The same investment expertise applies to a Silo discretionary portfolio as it would apply to a Killik portfolio. The range of investments available to the individual would be somewhat reduced. Yeah. That's all. Now, there is an argument that yes, we would lose some revenue, yes, we would cannibalize some revenue, but actually the downward pressure on revenue at any level now is enormous, and the more of these tech companies that come in and try and be wealth management companies, it's going to keep that pressure on revenue. So I don't really see that as a serious risk to our organisation.
And you said you're going to try and deliver an all-in solution for 100 basis points, under 1%. Is it profitable for you to deliver? Can you carry on delivering? Because that's one of the other questions that, Gina Miller was only blogging yesterday about the whole robo-advice sector. She's obviously got a bit of a thing for the sector. She was saying how uneconomic the model is. Can you make any money out of doing it under 1%?
There's two schools of thought here. We're hoping that we can make money out of it,
okay, fine,
but not a lot. I mean, the margins are small. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah. But so it is a low margin but thus profitable enterprise.
You can make
it work.
Yes, if it works, yeah. and you get a certain value of assets on the platform. Yes, you can make money out of it. Yeah. It is achievable.
What do you think is the break-even point AUM? You know I was going to ask the question.
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
I mean, is it 5 million, 50 million, 500 million?
The more you get the technology to work for you, the less the break-even point is. Yeah. So you can bring that break-even point down to below 100 million. Okay. But actually, because you want to have people available and you want to offer a much better service, you're starting to push that figure out to in excess of 200 million and probably higher.
Yeah, but that gives a sense of what you're so that range you're looking at. Yeah, very interesting. And do you think though? I mean, do you weren't here a little bit earlier, but there were people talking about the likes of Google move into Amazon move into it, and everybody suddenly stops imagining this as a small niche market, but this could actually be the big thing. Yeah, that could do very well. Could Silo be bigger than Killik & Co? Is that what you're imagining? So I'm turning the table around on you, really. I'm saying instead of it being an add-on to your core business, do you think that if all the big players get behind it and the nutmegs and the scalable capitals do really well, that this could be your bigger thing than your core business?
Yes and no, because the Killik ethos is all about relationships. So we're not setting ourselves up to be a tech pioneer. Okay. We're not setting ourselves up to be the next Google in wealth management. What we're doing is setting the expectation that anybody can come to Killik at whatever stage they want and access our services through whatever avenue they want to access it through. So if somebody still wants to pick up the phone and talk to one of our investment managers, if somebody still wants to email us, if somebody wants to come and have a face-to-face meeting, or just engage with us digitally, all of those opportunities are available to them. So we're going to keep that scale there the whole way through. I also think, and there is evidence of this, you only have to look at nutmeg, that when people's portfolios get to a certain size, they actually want to talk to somebody. Or when they're a little bit concerned about, am I saving enough for the school fees, or am I going to have enough to retire on, they actually do want to talk to somebody. And that's what Nutmeg had to do. They had to start to bring the advisors in. I mean, I'm not touting Nutmeg as a huge success, because I am very friendly with Nick Hungerford when he was there, and they struggled. But what they hadn't realised was when they got to a scale, or when portfolios got to a size, people actually want to talk to somebody, or they want to have that comfort blanket of being able to talk to somebody. And that's what we do. So we're not this big pioneer. I mean, I'm scared rigid of Amazon or Google or Apple coming into this market, because they'll just corner it. Because they'll be able to corner it because of their budgets and the amount that they can spend.
Just talking on that service option for the time being, stick with that theme. It's a very difficult question to answer this, I suppose, but what proportion of your kind of day in, day out interaction with customers is really based upon what I call, in the nicest sense of the word, hand-holding, financial planning? Not really talking about, I just see you've bought shares in X, Y, or Z. It's actually about school fees, all that kind of stuff. What, any sense in which, because I'm trying to get at is the degree to which actually people do want service, somebody and telephone. Would you say most of your customer encounters are probably to do with the non-securities or funds-related activities, or do you still think that's the majority of what you do? And I know it's a broad piece, and I'm using the usual caveat.
Sure. But based on our current business model, we're still very much an advised-dominated business. Yeah. So we're still very much an advisory business. So therefore, I would say that about 30% of our business is about the financial planning bit, and about 70% is still just talking shares.
Okay, that's fine.
But actually, the road that we're on is the road that says more and more people want to talk to us about things other than investing their money. And that's what we have to scale up for. And it's at the moment, you cannot do that digitally. You can do part of it digitally. I can create a savings plan, for argument's sake, and that is something that we're working on. Is you put in some metrics about yourself, your age, number of kids, dependents, income, savings, property, etc., etc. We can start to say, well, and you say you want to retire at 50, and
that'd be glorious.
And we go there, no chance. Because you can build the tools that say that. Yeah. You can build the tools that say, actually, from a cash flow modeling perspective, and using Monte Carlo simulation and all of that, that actually you've got to work till you're 90 if you want to retire with this income. Yeah. So you can do some of that already, but actually that isn't the answer. People like to be able to play with the toys and work out what I can and can't do, but the reality is having done that, they then want to go and talk to somebody.
Yeah, I must admit, my own insight, which is the reason I mentioned that I did an opening kind of quick talk with some of the issues, is service does matter, because one of the most interesting things, one of the reasons I went with Killik & Co was you, for instance, did cheap wills. Yeah. I don't want to sound a bit cheap about it, but I will. And you did, the fact that you offer cheap wills. Now, even very basic things like that honestly matter to a lot of people, because they sort of put it off and they think, oh, I won't bother doing it. But actually, and who do you want to talk to? You want to go and talk to your legal advisor? Oh, God, I've got to find someone. So the fact that you could do it fundamentally because it's quite cheap, because it's an add-on service, is quite useful. And that tells me a bigger story, which is, as you said, the demand for hand-holding, actual person at the other end of a telephone line, is going to be huge. How could you make that economics work with a robo-offer? You basically can't, really, can you? You can't really deliver anything beyond electronic interaction. You're going to have to basically force them to pay extra to go and see somebody in the flesh.
So we've already thought about this. So in terms of a typical 30-year-old downloading the app, setting up a regular payment in, us linking their bank account so we can run the intelligent algo. What we can do using the app, or actually just using other marketing communications, is start to talk about other things. We don't talk about retirement anymore. We talk about, are you working, or are you no longer working? Are you saving, or are you no longer saving? If you're still saving, have you thought about what's going to happen with your wealth if something happens to you? And so you can start to deliver aspects of a wills service digitally, right? But not the whole way through. Yeah. So you can use technology to set appointments up, and that way you control the volume. You don't have to just say, everybody come to Killik for a cheap will, and we'll do it all digitally for you. Yeah. What we can do is use technology to engage with individuals to then say, we'll control the flow of business in and out. We're going to do exactly the same with the app when we launch it. I don't want 200,000 people downloading the app on day one, because we just couldn't cope. And it wouldn't make any sense to do that. I was part of the team, I came slightly after launch, that launched Self-Trade in the UK in 2000. And that was a technology revolution then. And they fell over on day two because they just let everybody come in through the door or through the website. And they just couldn't cope. So again, the wonderful thing about technology is you can control it. You only have to look at the way banks like Monzo and Revolut and others have come to market is they call people beta testers. They say get involved with us, play with us, help us shape the future, and we're going to do something very similar. So that's what it's going to be.
But just on a narrow question, if they want to do the other kind of stuff that involves sitting down with a human, they're probably going to have to pay extra for that.
They will have to pay extra for it.
That's what I was going to establish. Okay, and what's I don't think you really answered, but since my question earlier on, how big do you think this thing will be? Because when I'm sort of asking how big do you think the digital wealth sector would be, do you think the digital wealth sector is really just about taking a percentage of the existing customer base? Because you and I both know that there's actually only a limited number of people in the UK who can be bothered to invest. Are you really? Is it a cannibalisation strategy, which is we're going to peel off some of them, or is this about making it all bigger? So, do you think that digital wealth is actually going to lever open a much bigger market? So instead of talking about a pool of available people of a few million, we could be talking about a pool of 10 million. Do you think it is that transformational, or do you think it really is at the moment is actually delivering a cannibalised solution for the existing core 2-3 million?
No, I actually believe very strongly that the digital revolution is prizing apart the doors to allow more people access to investment and investing their money. Banks make it very easy for you to do a cash ISA every year. It's just a very simple process. The simplification of that and allowing people to save that cash but actually invest it at the same time is exactly what Wealthify, Wealthsimple, Moneybox, Silo, Nutmeg are doing, and actually are gaining some traction. And it's not going to just be that taking that top 5% of wealth and sharing it across more platforms. We're actually moving it down into more mass affluent territory.
Which poses the question that a lot of the existing people have got partnership deals. I mean, some of the platforms we had an earlier panel are working a lot with partners, others aren't. But I think Scalable were working with a big ING, I think, isn't it? Isn't that really the way you're going to get the distribution channels? Because the reality of it is, if the current market is this, and the addressable market is this, but the addressable market that you want to go after is largely controlled by banks. And you are going to have to do deals with other players, aren't you, to be able to get to that market? So, for instance, Scalable, the done will do is ING. You know, I could imagine you could be knocking on the door of some of the challenger banks. You know, or are you going to try and do this all yourself?
So we always talk to people. So there's always partnerships to look at and assess. Do you know what the biggest missing link in all of this is? It's education. You have to educate people about investing, and you can partner with whomsoever you want. I mean, the banks don't want to let the money go flowing out of their doors. Yeah, exactly. So they very happily partner with anybody because actually I'm still holding on to that money. Yeah. The reality is that if we educate and we educate properly and we get into grassroots education and we start to look at the most important thing, and that's the power of compounding, which nobody talks about. Actually, but well,
some of us journalists do.
But actually, that is the most important thing. Is if you can educate people that if you save a regular amount every month, forget about short term, just save a regular amount every month, and reinvest any interest or income that comes off the back of that investment. The growth potential is phenomenal. It is such a powerful tool, and if you get sort of the greedy capitalists who buy into this power of compounding, we are actually, you can start something really, really quite powerful. So, why go after the banks and everything else? Go after the education system and educate people about how best to save.
The only slight, I'll open up to questions then. The only slight note of disagreement is, I mean, I write a lot about ETFs, for instance, and if you talk to the ETF issues, they've been trying to educate the market for years and have failed miserably about compounding costs and all that kind of stuff. It's a bloody big job to educate the market because actually, I think somebody mentioned earlier, most people are educated on property. You know, that's the way to look at stuff. And so, isn't that a big challenge?
Yeah, it's a massive challenge. I'm not saying it isn't, but you know, you that's where you've got to start. If you don't start there, you know, you're going to form partnerships with an umbilical cord all the time, and you know, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is you need to make sure that people actually do something positive with their wealth, with their own savings. Do you know what? As part of our research, we looked at the sort of the broadness of the market in terms of which markets are you going to service, etc., etc. And of course, you know, you go and look at the millennial market. But actually, if you just go sort of one step above that, you know, literally a couple of years, and that applies to a lot of the staff that we employ. Actually, they're really good at saving, but they're not good at investing. And if we start to talk to that market in a way that works, it's brilliant. The other thing we haven't ruled out is you know, that if anybody wants to white label Silo, why couldn't they?
And there's no invitation. And when you did your scan of the market, it doesn't matter if they're American or UK. Was there one existing player you thought, no, they've got a really good? Well, I like what they're doing. Which is the one that most impressed you?
Digit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you want to tell everybody a bit more about them?
Digit's a bank. It's an American organisation who very cleverly worked out that they could access people's bank accounts and read their trading history, and then or their transaction history, sorry, and then just say, look, we'll do a roundup on every transaction for you, and then save it for you, and we'll just put it into another bank account. And if you ever want your money back, you can have it straight back. And they went from 0 to 5,000 in a very short space of time. They made one mistake, which was they really annoyed their customers by not paying any interest on the money that they were collecting, but collecting all the interest for themselves.
But or maybe a brilliant business plan. Look at it.
It's sort of they have remedied that. But actually, it grew phenomenally, and it was really successful.
We've got a couple of minutes for questions because I'm sure there's quite a few people dying to ask questions. Gentlemen, got first question.
Just a bit more about your distribution model. Are you looking to? Is this a sort of way of you trying to steal people off SJP or future people on SJP or the likes of them?
I don't really know who SJP are. No, I'm joking.
Good God, man.
I mean, are you looking to go after a sort of, I don't know, open work or a IFA network?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
I mean, is this just this seems like a sort of a glory app for your existing customers. Sorry, I don't mean to insult.
No. It's a perfectly valid question. We're not going after our peer market, no. You know, St James's Place have a very good model. We don't necessarily agree with it. The reality is that a lot of our clients talk about the worries that they have for their children and their children's children. And they talk about the fact that what they think is going to happen is they're going to pass down the wealth and it's just going to get spent. So what we thought was actually we need to engage with their offspring in a way that most of our peers don't. So that's how the concept of the app was born. But the reality is there's a much more fundamental problem, which is people save cash and then spend cash. Saving cash, you lose money every single year. And so what we want to do is this isn't a glory thing. This is about encouraging people to save. And if actually they save and invest through Killik, brilliant, because we make some money out of it.
Okay, but that leads me on to the next. Are you going to have to bring on new products onto it? So a lot of new products, maybe peer-to-peer lending or something like that, you might want to. I mean, it's cash plus, right?
Yeah, and we have looked at that. So we have spoken to some of the peer-to-peer lenders out there, you know, to ascertain, you know, whether that is a good option to offer. So yes, it is about launching with something, but never letting it stand still. So keep adding to it. Killik & Co. as an investment house, we have a lot of assets under management, including a lot of cash that just sits around doing nothing. But actually, we could use that cash for peer-to-peer lending purposes as well. So, and one thing I want to make clear about this whole project that we're working on, it's not just about new clients. It's about taking all the experiences we've learned from Silo, which is how to onboard quickly, how to engage through different channels, how to make life easier for customers, and we're actually applying that to the existing Killik customers. So we're redoing the Killik app, which is an online portal. We're redoing the whole client registration piece for Killik customers, so to improve their life there as well.
Any other questions? Gentlemen.
You mentioned the education being the big challenge. Is it a case of getting in as many places as possible, or is there a certain one or two areas that you need to get into that'll make the education effective? You mentioned some people write about it, but most people probably don't read those publications.
No, they don't. No.
So, do you need to be in at schools? Do you need to be in at universities? Do you need to be in corporate companies when they onboard new staff and say this is what you should do?
Yeah, so the idea that we are kicking around at the moment is about sort of senior and tertiary education, so secondary and tertiary education. Yeah.
I have a question on pricing. Do you have different prices for different services, or is it just one whole price?
It's one whole price, but there will be some. So the ambition is that it's going to be less than 1%, including VAT, on the app. And there will be price points if you introduce more people and you get to a value of portfolio in a group. So we're encouraging sort of community type groups. You can lower down the headline rate.
So the pricing is not based on the amount of assets people have?
It is in the main, yeah.
Are you transparent in the pricing?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be.
And how do you get all the information from banks, from normal banks? So what you were saying in the beginning, when you have the figures, is it?
It's screen scraping.
Normal practice in the UK that you can get access to people banks?
You're not using Yodlee or Mint then?
Yeah,
You are
using
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say which one I'm using, but
Okay.
I'm using one of them.
We're using one of the two.
So it's just an aggregation service. So you mimic an individual's login. You download the data. You can't do anything other than look at the data. You run an algo over it. It analyzes. You categorize spending, and then you make recommendations.
Any other questions, gentlemen? There. I think we have time for a couple more questions. So penultimate question.
It seems to me that the Amazon model works because they're working on a manufacturing margin, not a retail margin. Have you got any plans to manufacture product as well?
No. We decided way back, well, Paul Killik decided when he set up Killik & Co. is that we would never be a product manufacturer, and we're going to stick to that. But you're right. It does make more money.
Last question. Any last questions? That was about that.
I think it's interesting that you have two Silo and Killik, they seem to be integrated together from what you've been saying. How much thought has been done towards the transition between the two?
Yeah.
So we're cognizant of the fact that most of our clients came to us for a reason, which was all about the relationship and the relationship that they have with their investment manager or advisor. Even though we've spoken about it internally, there's very little idea that there would be movement of assets out of Killik and into Silo. The reality, though, is that existing customers, I think, will want to use Silo. So as another way of saving. So it's just another service. So what our investment managers will probably largely kick me about is the fact that actually they're not getting that more of a share of wallet into the existing portfolios, but actually it's going into Silo. But that's not a bad thing, I don't think.
Very interesting. I think we've run out of time, but loads of interesting issues raised there. And thank you very much, Clem, for coming along. Clem, are you hanging around for a bit? Because I'm sure there might be a few people who grab you for quick questions.
Unfortunately,
No, well, you know how to get in contact with Killik.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.